Rose Thompson took her male assistant to a hotel to get a room. I called her parents, feigning panic. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, I said, Rose has been kidnapped. She's at the hotel on Westwind Avenue. You have to come quickly. The whole Thompson family rushed over, and they even brought a few police officers with them. After they broke down the door, they found Rose, her face etched with panic, and her male assistant lying naked on the bed. Everyone was stunned into silence. Humiliated and furious, Rose slapped me hard across the face. "Make Miller, is this all just a ploy to force me to divorce you?" she screamed. "Fine, you got what you wanted. I'd love to see what a kept man like you can possibly do after leaving the Thompson family. Did you really think we couldn't survive without you?" I walked away with nothing, but I got the divorce papers just as I'd planned. The moment I stepped out of City Hall, I pulled out my phone, dialed a number, and said quietly, "I'm divorced. Are the results of the DNA test back yet?" A respectful voice answered from the other end. "The results just came in today, sir. You are in fact the long-lost heir to the Hamilton family." The moment I walked out of City Hall, I let out a long, deep breath. All the frustration I had bottled up over the years finally vanished. I looked down at the divorce papers in my hand with a wry smile, then tore them to pieces and tossed them into the nearest trash can. Rose's face was a dark cloud as she watched me. She ripped her own copy of the papers and threw the shreds in my face. "Make Miller, are you satisfied now?" she said, her voice like ice. "You deliberately set me and Cody up to force my hand. Well, congratulations, you got your divorce. Every accomplishment you've had over the years was only because you were using the Thompson family's connections and resources. Without us, you're nothing," she sneered. "I'm just waiting for the day you come crawling back to me." Cody, standing beside her, put on a show of false sympathy. "Make, you and Rose were married for years. Don't you have even a little trust in her?" he said. "Without her help, how could you possibly have become such a respected figure in the business world so quickly? You shouldn't confuse the Thompson family support with your own talent. That whole thing at the hotel was just a misunderstanding. I had too much to drink, Rose was helping me back to my room, and I threw up all over her. She had just taken her clothes off to wash them when you burst in. You can't blame her for how this turned out. The real problem is you're just too insecure." The words were barely out of his mouth before my fist connected squarely with his jaw. I knew Cody was trying to get a rise out of me. It worked. In the past, Rose always protected him. Whenever Cody and I clashed, she would blindly take his side, forcing me to be the one to apologize. That only made him bolder and more arrogant with me. But now that Rose and I were divorced, I had no reason to put up with the bastard anymore. Cody crumpled to the ground, clutching his face in pain, but his eyes were filled with a triumphant, mocking glare. He was certain that me hitting him in public would send Rose into a rage. And just as he predicted, Rose exploded. "Make, are you insane?" she shrieked. "How many times have I told you not to touch him? Why can't you get that through your head? Apologize to him right now, or I will never, ever forgive you." As she spoke, she raised her hand to slap me again. This time I caught her wrist and shoved it aside, sending her stumbling back, nearly falling. She stared at me in disbelief, her anger reaching a new peak. "Make," she sputtered, "how dare you fight back?" Before she could finish, I cut her off, my voice flat. "Miss Thompson, I suggest you remember who you are now. You're not my wife anymore. Did you really think I would still put up with your behavior? For years, no matter how horribly you treated me, I let it slide. I was deeply in love with you, but it was a pathetic kind of love. You never cared about anything I did, and you used my love as an excuse to walk all over me. Rose, love can't be a one-way street. Don't you understand that? When I loved you, your word was law. But now that I don't love you, you're nothing to me." Rose's face was pale with fury. As I turned to leave, she shouted, "Make Miller, you stop right there. If you walk out that door, I swear I'll go marry Cody this instant. By then, it won't matter if you come back begging on your knees." I didn't even turn around. I just gave a little wave over my shoulder and said coolly, "Well, I wish you two all the best. I'm not looking back, and I won't settle for less in the future. Whatever debt I owed Rose, it was paid in full. From this day forward, she and I were complete strangers." After leaving City Hall, I took a cab to the Hamilton family estate. The DNA results were in. I was the family's long-lost son. Growing up in an orphanage, I had always craved the warmth of a family. I used to dream that one day my birth parents would suddenly appear, and now, at 25, that dream had actually come true. On the way to the Hamilton estate, I found myself thinking back over the last few years. I started college at 18, working part-time to get by, which was when I met Rose Thompson. It was the classic cliché, the rich girl falling for the poor kid. Throughout college, she looked out for me, helping me out whenever I was short on money for food or tuition. A lot of people call me a freeloader, a pretty boy living off his girlfriend. I swallowed their insults and was determined to prove to everyone that I was worthy of her. I poured myself into studying finance and management in college. Also, I could be of use to her and her family's business one day. The year we graduated, the Thompson family business hit a major crisis. I worked tirelessly, pouring everything I had into helping them turn the company around, not just saving it for bankruptcy, but making it more successful than ever. Several major players in the industry noticed my work and made me lucrative offers to join them, but I turned them all down. Meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were telling everyone it was all their daughter's doing, building up this image of Rose as a business prodigy while completely ignoring my contributions. Back then, I didn't care. As long as I was helping Rose, that was all that mattered. I was content to be the man behind the curtain, letting her enjoy the glory that I had earned. But over time, she started to believe her own hype. She really began to think that all of my hard work and success was her own. Things got worse 2 years ago when she hired Cody Grayson as her assistant. Cody was a smooth talker who knew exactly what to say to make her happy, and it wasn't long before he became her most trusted confidant. There's a reason emperors in the old stories always fell for corrupt sycophants. It's because those flatterers were masters of telling the ruler exactly what he wanted to hear. If that bastard Cody lived back then, he'd have been the head eunuch for some incompetent king. I shook my head, pushing thoughts of Rose and Cody from my mind. It was time to focus on meeting my real parents. The Hamilton family's longtime butler had already given me a brief rundown of the family situation. After my parents lost me all those years ago, they adopted a boy from an orphanage and named him Leo. Now, with me returning to the family, I braced myself for the inevitable clash between the true heir and the adopted son. I had no idea what to expect. I'd seen enough movies and read enough stories about situations like this to be prepared for a subtle, drawn-out battle for power with this imposter. When I arrived at the Hamilton estate, the old butler was there to greet me at the door. He had a strange look on his face as he leaned in and whispered, "Mr. Make, the young master, Leo, is having a bit of a disagreement with Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton. Perhaps you could go in and help smooth things over?" I just nodded. So, it seemed the adopted son wasn't happy about my return. That was to be expected. After all, Leo had grown up in the lap of luxury, assuming he would one day inherit the entire Hamilton fortune and live out his days as a carefree, do-nothing heir. Now that the true son was back, that comfortable future was suddenly in jeopardy. Of course, he'd be angry and scared. I ran through all the scenarios I'd imagined from the stories, my mind filled with strategies for dealing with him. But the moment I stepped into the mansion and saw my parents and Leo, I was completely thrown for a loop. My parents embraced me, tears streaming down their faces, telling me how much they had missed me and promising to make up for all the lost years. And then Leo, the imposter, threw his arms around me, his voice trembling with excitement. "Brother," he said, "you're finally home. This is amazing. I can finally breathe. I don't have to let Mom and Dad force me to study all that boring financial management stuff anymore." He beamed at me. "I've heard all about you. Everyone in the business world says you have a brilliant eye for investment. With you here to take over the family business, I can finally be free to pursue my own passions." My mother gave a weary, exasperated smile, while my father, furious, grabbed a feather duster and started chasing Leo around the room with it. Leo dodged and weaved, using me as a human shield, all while shouting defiantly, "I like video games and traveling. I don't want to be stuck in an office managing the company. I'm a free spirit. I refuse to be a bird trapped in a cage you built. I can earn my own living. You don't have to worry about me." And now my big brother is back. He's the financial genius. He's perfect for this. When you two retire, he can take over everything, so you can stop trying to force me into it. I just stood there, watching this chaotic, loving family, and my brain practically short-circuited. Where was the bitter rivalry I had expected? Where were the secret plots and betrayals? All the defensive strategies I had prepared were completely useless, and I had to admit, I really liked it. In the end, the chase concluded with my father landing a few solid whacks on Leo's backside with the feather duster. From the ensuing conversation, I got a clearer picture of the situation. My parents weren't in the best of health and were hoping to retire soon, with the original plan being for Leo and me to take over the Hamilton businesses together. The problem was, Leo had absolutely no interest in doing so. My parents were frustrated by his lack of ambition, but Leo was just being true to himself. He was a creative soul and refused to be forced into a life he didn't want. I never imagined my return to the Hamilton family would turn out like this. It was a relief, honestly. At least I wouldn't have to deal with any of the nasty family backstabbing I'd been expecting. When I told my parents what had happened with Rose, they were furious on my behalf. That Rose Thompson sounds just awful, my mother said. Everyone knows the Thompson Corporation has grown exponentially these past few years. They couldn't have done it without you, my father added. Son, you were smart to get away from them. They'll regret this one day. Leo, however, was focused on Cody Grayson. He gave me a strange look. Hey, big brother, he said, my fiancée, Chloe, has a cousin named Cody Grayson. It couldn't be the same jerk who was messing around with your wife, could it? I froze for a second. Do you have a picture of him? I asked. Leo pulled up a photo on his phone. I looked at it, my own expression turning grim as I nodded. That's him. What are the odds? My parents narrowed their eyes, shooting a dangerous glare at Leo. Hey, Mom, Dad, don't look at me like that, he said frantically. This has nothing to do with me. You both love Chloe. You know she's a wonderful person. Cody is just some distant cousin of hers. They barely know each other. We only had dinner with him once a while back. I just shrugged it off with a small smile. It doesn't matter, I said. Rose and I are divorced now. Even if Cody becomes the Thompson family's golden boy's son-in-law, it has nothing to do with me anymore. My mother slammed her hand on the table. Absolutely not, she declared. No one gets to bully my son like that. Leo, your wedding to Chloe is in a few weeks. You tell her that she needs to invite that cousin of hers, Cody. I'm going to publicly humiliate him for what he did to my son. My father snorted in agreement. And the Thompsons. We have to invite them too. Let them see for themselves the kept man they threw away is a man of distinguished standing. I'm going to make the Thompsons kneel and beg for mercy in front of everyone. Their fierce protectiveness left me speechless, and a warm feeling spread through my chest. So, this is what it felt like to have someone in your corner. This was my family. Leo nudged me and whispered, Mom and Dad are pretty intense, huh? I just smiled and nodded. This is exactly why I wanted to run away, he said with a pained grin. Bro, you have no idea how many times they've ganged up on me over the years. Thank God you're back. Now someone else can draw their fire. I clapped him on the shoulder, grinning. My dear brother, you're so naive. Mom and Dad are getting older. They don't have the energy for it anymore. From now on, I'll be the one keeping you in line. Don't worry, I'll make up for all those years of brotherly affection you missed out on. Leo's eyes went wide as he stared at me in horror. News of my divorce from Rose eventually hit the media. The Thompson family was quick to play the victim, releasing a public statement that dragged my name through the mud and hiring online trolls to destroy my reputation. Uninformed people online ate it up. Make Miller is so arrogant, thinking he's the only reason Thompson Corp is still standing. He wanted to take over, but who does he think he is? One comment read. Exactly. He's just a freeloader who got lucky. Without Rose, nobody would even know his name. I heard he tried to take half the family's assets in the divorce. The nerve of that guy, another said. That shameless gold digger should just drop dead. A few people knew part of the story. Didn't someone say Rose was caught in a hotel room with her assistant, Cody, and Make brought her whole family to see it? That was fake news, someone replied. Rose already clarified that Make set the whole thing up because he was trying to get half their money in the divorce. Ugh, what kind of man schemes against his own wife? Make Miller is a real piece of work. I ignored all the noise online. My parents also held back, wanting to let the smear campaign against me grow even bigger. If the Hamiltons intervened now, it would only serve as a warning to the Thompsons. My parents, however, wanted to let the Thompsons dig their own grave a little deeper, so they could bury them in it later. As Leo put it, Mom and Dad seem nice and gentle on the surface, but they're ruthless. They're masters at playing the long game. I've learned that the hard way. You'll get used to it. On the day of Leo and Chloe's wedding, the Hamilton family invited a host of influential figures from the business world. The reception was held at the sprawling Hamilton family estate. When Rose Thompson and Cody Grayson arrived, their presence immediately drew whispers and glances from the other guests. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were all smiles, making a point to schmooze with the various industry titans in attendance. Many of the guests began to whisper among themselves. Looks like the Thompsons have really hit the jackpot this time. No wonder they were so quick to dump that business genius. Make Miller, one guest murmured. I know, right? Who knew that Cody Grayson was the new Mrs. Hamilton's cousin? Even if they're distant relatives, a little support from the Hamiltons could save the Thompson family decades of work. Even so, they shouldn't have sicked all those online trolls on Make, another person countered. If it wasn't for him, the Thompson Corporation would have gone under years ago. Outsiders might not know the real story, but those of us who've done business with them know the truth. That whole business prodigy image they built for Rose was all because of Make working silently behind the scenes. Without him, She wouldn't have a clue how to run that company. Kicking him out with nothing and then trying to ruin his reputation on top of it. That's just a dirty move. Well, the Thompsons hitched their wagon to a bigger star. I guess Mick was just unlucky to get involved with a family of ungrateful snakes. Hey, wait a minute. Isn't that Mick Miller over by the buffet table? How did he get into the Hamilton estate? Who let him in? Just then, someone spotted me enjoying the spread. I was by the buffet, eating some dessert to refuel after a mentally exhausting few weeks. The Hamilton family's portfolio was massive, and I had spent the last few weeks working day and night, poring over documents to get up to speed. The long hours had taken their toll, and I looked exhausted. It was at that moment that Rose and Cody spotted me. They both froze for a second. Then, with looks of pure arrogance and disdain, they started walking toward me. Rose, clinging to Cody's arm, sneered, "Make, how did you manage to sneak in here? Don't tell me you snuck in because you knew I'd be at Leo Hamilton's wedding. Are you here to apologize?" she taunted. "It's a little late for that. Cody and I are getting married soon. You missed your chance." Cody looked at me with utter contempt. "Make, for old time's sake, I'm telling you to get lost. Today is my cousin's wedding. If the Hamiltons find out an uninvited guest snuck in, I promise you it will not end well for you." I gave them a brief, dismissive glance and went back to my food. My indifference clearly infuriated them. "Make, don't push it," Rose snapped. "Cody and I are just trying to help you. You know who the Hamiltons are and the power they have. This is Leo Hamilton's wedding, and every important person in the city is here. If they find out a disgraced person like you snuck in, they'll do a lot more than just break your legs. And let me make one thing perfectly clear. There is no chance for us anymore. So don't even think about getting back together with me." Her words were so self-absorbed, I had to fight the urge to roll my eyes. How could anyone be that narcissistic? Who said anything about wanting her back? I was just trying to eat my dessert in peace. When I continued to ignore them, Cody slapped the plate right out of my hand. "Hey, I'm talking to you," he said impatiently. "Are you deaf?" He stared at me with a defiant smirk, clearly convinced I wouldn't dare to do anything to him here on Hamilton territory. He was wrong. Without a moment's hesitation, I slapped him hard across the face. The sharp crack of the slap echoed through the room, and guests turned to stare in shock. Rose and Cody were both stunned. A moment later, a look of venomous glee filled Cody's eyes as he clutched his cheek. "Make," he snarled, "you just signed your own death warrant, making a scene on Hamilton property? No one can save you now." Noticing the commotion, the estate security guards quickly moved in and surrounded us. Cody clutched his face, playing the victim perfectly. He pointed at me and yelled to the guards, "This bastard snuck in here pretending to be a guest. When I called him out, he attacked me. Grab him." Before the guards could even react, he shot me a triumphant, vicious grin. "You are so dead." Rose glared at me, her voice sharp with fury. "Make, you're an absolute lunatic. How dare you cause a scene at Leo Hamilton's wedding? This is a direct insult to the entire Hamilton family. Well, now you're trapped. You can't escape this. I can't believe I was ever blind enough to marry you. Thank God I came to my senses and divorced you when I did. Everyone saw it. Make hit Cody first. He was the one who started it. He has nothing to do with the Thompson family anymore." With that, Rose was publicly washing her hands of me, terrified that the fallout from me being thrown out by security would splash onto her and her family. But the Hamilton security guards didn't move toward me. Instead, they stood by, looking coldly at Rose and Cody, as if waiting for my command. Seeing that the guards weren't doing anything, Cody started to look flustered. His face darkened as he shouted at the guards, "Didn't you see him hit me? Throw this bastard out of here right now, or I'll tell my cousin to have every single one of you fired." The guards just continued to stare at him, their expressions making it clear they thought he was an idiot. The onlookers began to notice that something was off about the way the guards were treating me. They started giving me strange looks and whispering to each other. Just then, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, having finished their networking, rushed over. After Rose and Cody gave them an exaggerated version of events, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson flew into a rage. They glared at me, and Mrs. Thompson shrieked, "Make Miller, you son of a bitch who was clearly never raised right. Are you doing this on purpose just to humiliate our family? Cody is about to become our son-in-law, and he's 1,000 times the man you'll ever be." Mr. Thompson added, "If you hadn't relentlessly pursued our daughter, she never would have married a worthless orphan like you in the first place. You're disgusting. The sight of you makes me sick," Mrs. Thompson spat. Then she turned on the guards. "What is wrong with you people? Arrest him. He just assaulted the cousin of the new Mrs. Hamilton. We are invited guests of the Hamiltons." Mr. Thompson bellowed, "If Mr. and Mrs. Hamilton find out you let their guests be assaulted like this, they'll have your heads." They were acting so brazenly because they were banking on Cody's connection to the bride, Chloe. But even with all their shouting, the Hamilton security guards remained perfectly still. At this point, anyone with a brain could tell something wasn't right. And just then, Leo and Chloe themselves arrived. The arrival of the bride and groom captured everyone's attention. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson immediately plastered on sycophantic smiles and rushed over to them, launching into a dramatic, embellished tale designed to make me look as bad as possible. Rose quickly added, "Leo, that man Make is my ex-husband. He has a violent streak. It's why I had to divorce him. I can't believe he's still stalking me, even sneaking onto your family's property. He's unstable. You need to get him out of here." Cody, looking deeply aggrieved, turned to the couple. "Chloe, Leo, you have to do something. That animal just assaulted me. We can't just let him get away with this. And your security, they just stood there like statues. They're completely useless. You should fire them all." Leo nodded slowly, a strange, amused glint in his eye. "So," he said to Cody, "how exactly do you want to get back at him? Tell me. I'll do whatever you say." Hearing this, Cody's face lit up with vicious excitement. He shot me a triumphant glare and said, "Break his arms and legs. Make it so he can never stand again. Let him spend the rest of his life begging on the streets." Before he could finish, a sharp slap cut him off. The person who had slapped him was Chloe. Her face was like ice as she stared him down. "Cody," she said, her voice dangerously low, "you've been throwing my name around to get what you want for quite some time now, haven't you? We are distant cousins at best. I only acknowledged you out of respect for our family elders. But now you show up on my wedding day and cause this disaster. You really have a death wish. Everyone, listen up. From this day forward, Cody Grayson and I are no longer related in any way. I advise you all to be very careful if you ever choose to do business with him." This development left not only Cody completely stunned, but the rest of the guests as well. "What's going on?" people whispered. "Cody was the one who got hit. Why is the bride treating him like that? Make, the one who threw the punch, is perfectly fine, but Cody, the victim, just got publicly disowned by his own cousin. What is happening?" The Thompsons must be freaking out. Their entire plan to cozy up to the Hamiltons through Cody just went up in smoke. Am I imagining things, or are Leo and Chloe looking at Make with, is that respect? Cody's face was as white as a sheet. He stared, dumbfounded, at Chloe's icy expression. "Cousin," he stammered, "why are you?" Before he could finish, Leo led Chloe over to where I was standing. Chloe looked at me, her expression full of apology. "Big brother," she said softly, "I am so sorry. I had no idea Cody was this arrogant." I cut her off with a reassuring smile. "It has nothing to do with you. This whole mess between me and him," I continued, "I'll just put it on my little brother's tab." Leo's eyes widened in protest. "Hey, what's that supposed to mean?" I said, "It means that from now on, whenever I'm in a bad mood and I remember this little incident, I'm going to take it out on you." Any objections? Leo was indignant. "It was Mom and Dad's idea to invite the Thompsons and Cody. What it got to do with me? If you got a problem, take it up with them." I gave him a cold smile. "Little brother, it seems I haven't been giving you enough brotherly guidance lately. After your wedding is over, we'll start your lessons tomorrow." Leo let out a pathetic groan. Our back and forth left the entire room staring in stunned silence. Rose's eyes were wide with shock. "You," she stammered, her voice trembling. "You're Leo Hamilton's brother?" Cody simply couldn't process it. "Impossible," he shouted. "You're an orphan. How could you be a Hamilton? You must be a fraud. You've tricked them somehow." Mr. and Mrs. Thompson stood frozen, trembling, all the color drained from their faces. Leo narrowed his eyes at Cody. "You wanted to break my brother's arms and legs?" he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Make him beg on the streets for the rest of his life? That's a pretty sick thought." Cody's legs gave out, and he only stayed upright by grabbing onto Rose's shoulders. Then Leo turned his gaze to Rose, shaking his head with a sigh. "You could have been my sister-in-law. What a shame." Then again, he added, "A woman like you is never good enough for my brother anyway." Rose's eyes filled with tears, and she began to sob uncontrollably. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were looking at me with pure terror, about to stammer out some kind of apology when my parents walked up. My father put a hand on my shoulder and announced to the crowd, "This is our son, Make. He was lost to us for many years, but we recently found him. From this day on, he will be the sole heir to the Hamilton family fortune." I'm also sure you're all aware of the recent online smear campaign against my son. I won't say much more on the matter, except this. Every single person who spread those lies and slandered my son will be hearing from our lawyers. Every last one of them. We will not rest until they have been bankrupted for what they've done. And finally, I am announcing that, as of today, the Hamilton family will be using its full resources to dismantle the Thompson Corporation. Anyone who chooses to do business with them will be considered an enemy of our family." The moment my father finished speaking, my mother strode forward and slapped Mrs. Thompson across the face, then delivered a swift kick to Mr. Thompson's gut. As they doubled over in pain, my mother stood over them and said, "If it weren't for my son, where would your pathetic family be today? You called my son a freeloader while treating that treacherous snake Cody like a prize. You're not just blind, you're heartless. You could have been family. It's a shame you're such terrible judges of character. From now on, your entire family can get ready to start begging on the streets." And with that, before they could even respond, my mother ordered the security guards to throw them all out of the estate. When Cody was thrown out, he had already wet his pants. As Rose was dragged away, tears streamed down her face, smearing her makeup into a mess. After they were gone, my mom turned to me with a smile. "Feel better, son?" I nodded, giving my parents a slightly weary smile. "Thank you both, but I'm not the main event today. Let's get back to my brother and his new wife's wedding." The ceremony continued as planned, and the earlier drama was treated as nothing more than a brief, forgotten interruption. However, when footage of the scene inevitably leaked online, the internet exploded. Holy crap! Meg Miller is actually the long-lost heir to the Hamilton fortune. The Thompson family is finished. They won't know what hit them. That idiot Cody Grayson actually threatened to break Meg's legs in his own family's home. He's done for. So is the Thompson family. The Hamiltons have declared war. I heard all of the Thompsons' business partners are already jumping ship. The real tragedy here is Rose. She could have been Mrs. Hamilton, but she threw away a winning hand. And look, all those influencers and media sites that were slandering Meg are now posting tearful apologies. Amazing how sincere they sound. They're not sorry, they're terrified. The Hamilton family's legal team is the best in the business. They'll bankrupt anyone who slandered him. The news of Leo's wedding was completely overshadowed. The only things anyone was talking about online were the Thompsons and Cody Grayson. After being thrown out of the wedding, Cody was promptly abandoned by the Thompsons as well. He started drinking heavily, making drunken scenes, and screaming obscenities in public. One night, he had an accident and ended up with broken limbs and all his teeth knocked out. He furiously told the police that he'd been attacked, insisting I was the one who sent the thugs. But there was no evidence. The area of the park where he was found had no security cameras, so the case went cold. Cody was left a broken man, forced to numbly beg on the streets to survive. Before long, unable to bear the constant ridicule and cold stares, he threw himself into the river. Meanwhile, the Thompson Corporation was systematically dismantled. Partners pulled out, investors fled, and their cash flow dried up. With no way to recover, they were forced to declare bankruptcy. I heard that on the day the company officially went bankrupt, both Mr. and Mrs. Thompson suffered massive strokes from the stress and were hospitalized. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Since Leo's wedding, I had been gradually taking over the Hamilton family businesses. I was so busy I barely had time to breathe, let alone think about the Thompsons or Cody. One afternoon, Leo popped in my office to tell me he and Chloe were leaving for their honeymoon. I gave him a weary look. "Mom and Dad are off traveling the world, and now you're abandoning the family business too. Are you all just going to work me like a dog until I drop?" Leo just grinned. "To whom much is given, much is required. You're the capable one, big brother. Once you get married and have a kid, you can start training your own successor and retire early, just like Mom and Dad. Speaking of which, Chloe and our parents have introduced you to some amazing women. Why haven't you gone on a single date?" I sighed and rubbed my temples. "I'm not interested in dating right now. It's too much of a hassle. Maybe later." Leo gave me a strange look. "Bro, don't tell me you're still hung up on Rose. You can't let her mess you up like this. You know what they say, the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else." Before he could finish his sentence, I pointed to the door without looking up from my desk. "Get out." All right, I'm going," he said with a laugh. "But before I do, you should know, Rose is here. She's waiting outside the building. Said she's not leaving until you agree to see her." Before I could even react, Leo was gone. I frowned, rising from my chair and walking over to the large window that overlooked the entrance. After watching for a long moment, I sighed, left my office, and headed downstairs. Outside the main entrance, Rose was standing in a simple, cream-colored dress, looking like a fresh-faced college student. She was holding a bouquet of flowers. Ignoring the curious stares of people passing by, she watched me emerge from the building, a radiant smile spreading across her face. I stopped about 6 feet away from her, my expression calm. Her eyes were red and puffy, but she smiled brightly. This is the dress I was wearing when you proposed to me, she said. It's been a few years, but it still fits, don't you think? I didn't answer. She pressed on. Make, do you remember what you said when you proposed? You promised you would always be good to me. You promised you would never leave me. I was a fool. I let that snake Cody manipulate me, and I did things that hurt you. I know I was wrong now. Please, can you forgive me? We can start over. From now on, I'll do anything you ask. I will never, ever hurt you again. Please, she begged. Just give me one more chance. She pulled out a small box. Inside was the engagement ring I had given her all those years ago. She looked at me, her face full of desperate hope, her voice shaking. This time, let me be the one to ask. Make, will you marry me again? As she spoke the words, she began to kneel. I stepped to the side, avoiding the gesture, and looked at her with a calm, steady gaze. Some things can't be undone, Rose. Not every apology deserves forgiveness. We're divorced. The moment you chose Cody over me, whatever we had was over. Stop living in the past. It's true that I once loved you deeply, but that person is gone. I don't love you anymore. From this day forward, you're no longer a part of my world. Please don't bother me again. Tears streamed down her face, and she took a step toward me as if to say more. I took a step back. Goodbye, Rose, I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. And I mean for good. Before she could reply, I turned and walked away. Rose collapsed into sobs, her cries filled with regret. But this was the path she had chosen for herself. Who else was there to blame? No one waits forever for someone who walks away. You only learn to cherish something after it's gone, but by then, it's too late. Goodbye forever, Rose.